these guys, when they have like Nick Walker's winner's mentality, he's zero in, he doesn't see anything else. So it's Hadi. And he represent the country. They made two statues, I don't know, in two different cities. I don't know if you've seen it. He's celebrated, and he's there going to the war as a warrior, ready to fight to win. And for him, nothing else was acceptable. Now, when he was not called, okay, he graciously accepted and then walk off. I don't know. We don't know if he did say publicly something, there. I think he's a good guy, and I think that we are a little bit making a big deal out of it. Dave and I were competing and watching the shows forever, coaching people and everything. You go by some standards when somebody has like Dave's conditioning, that bone dry, ripped to pieces, all that stuff, right? And then under the good lights, under the good pictures, and then you already make up your mind, okay, this is on, and anything lesser than that would be off. Right. So I promise you. Now, again, biased coach speaking, it has no value. Tyler Mannion speaking has a lot of value. He came up to me, he told me what he saw, and then he came to SAMSON and says, yes, you are improved from Arnold. Okay, so if improved Arnold Classic champion that beat third Nick Walker, who was John, by the way, in shape at Arnold also, because Nick just cannot be out of shape, right? So exactly. That tells you. I mean, we had a notion of just bring him 5% better than Arnold and he wins, right? And this is what we were gauging, pretty much for. Do you need to go that extra something? And I touched the subject with Dave, and I was looking all day for one of my pictures when I didn't drink for 3 days for 88 Universe, and I was bone dry and all that stuff. I'm actually blessed that I didn't die that time. I swear to God, I first sip that I actually took backstage because I was just like so dry and all this. I took that first step drink, and it went like pierced my chest. I'll never forget this. And I was but no, seriously. Okay, Dave, you would say bring him drier. Bring him drier. When
I don't think he needs to be drier. I thought he could be a little bit leaner. That's it.
But the most of the other people, when they talk about being off, they're going to talk about the dryness, right? Yeah, so it's very easy to add a little bit of diuretic here and there. Right. And I'm talking about this because
he didn't need any more diuretic. I don't think so at all. I think that's pretty lean.
So let's put this in perspective. We were talking about all these deaths and the danger and everything else.
He's pretty dry. I thought maybe he could be a little leaner, but I think he's dry.
Okay. Compare. You can here a hamstring. No hamstring. Here you can clearly see semi-membranosis, semi-tendinosis, biceps femoris, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So go on Derek. You're not going to see that. You're going to see striated glutes, but you're not going to see any lines. Just like you don't have a separation of the quads, you don't have a separation on the hamstring. How come you're not penalized? But just to clarify, you see, you have a striated glutes, but there's no 3 vertical lines over 3 hamstring muscles. So they're particular. They focus on what they want to see and what they don't want to see. But I just want to mention this dryness. I was in the room when Mohammed Ben Aziza died. You know that 1992 Grand Prix in Holland. I was twice in a hospital with once with Steve Weinberger came with me and Mustafa Mohammed in Amsterdam. once in Vegas here after the Olympia. We had a Mike Matarazzo carried, to the hospital. I was in a hotel hearing somebody scream when there was Sonny Schmidt locked up completely. Paul Dillette was carried up the stage. I mean, that's what we are talking about. And I know you are here, John. You gave him injectable Lasix, right? but listen, I was called by one of the coaches at the Olympia. I said, Milos, you have injectable Lasix? I say, hell no, I haven't seen it for 20-something years.
Since John Romano used it last year.
Yeah, the last time. But what I want to say is really, how dry do you need to be considered, okay, now this is good? Because all the guys, okay, let me go a little bit more. Jay Cutler didn't drink for 3 days and failed the test on 5 diuretics.
Right.
It's not a joke, right? He remembers only 4, but okay. There was 5.
But Milos, if you look at any of the lineups from the 90s, okay, when you had, Lee Priest, Flex Wheeler, Gunther Schlierkamp, even, Marcus Rule, the biggest guys you could Nasser was master at it. All of those guys on the lineup, whatever the lighting, they looked like their skin was see-through, right, transparent. You could see right through it. Dorian, the master.
I think they were suffering more. That's what I think.
But here's the thing. You can look at an entire lineup like that and look at nobody's off. And if anyone is off, it's maybe 1 or 2 guys. It's a fringe exception way over here in the corner. Okay. You look at the lineup today and you just don't see that. And I'm not willing to say it's all the lighting. So,
but you know what, John, you see it in other shows. You just, for some reason, we didn't see it at the Olympia.
Why are the women more shredded?
But again, it's the timing. Back in the 90s, did the guys go on earlier?
Yeah,
I think people.
Good point.
All right, let me. I want to throw another theory out there. Because you can't argue 2 different eras. But I think the guys are trying to come in too full. But regardless of that, let me ask this question to Lesley, psychology-wise. The show is very close. Everyone had a kind of like a little chink in their armor. No one was like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, blow these guys off the stage, right? So you had it very close between Hadi, Derek, and Samson, all right? Here's the psychology. The judges have to judge this. All right, you know what? We know everyone's not at their absolute best. We have to try to pick who's the best up here. And Hadi's the reigning Mr. Olympia. If we give him the title again, it's going to be very boring. If he loses the title, okay, then it's going to make for a lot of controversy, and it's going to make for an interesting rematch next year.
Drama.
The question is, who? So from a psychology standpoint, Lesley, you can answer this question more so than from a physique standpoint. Does it make sense that maybe, you know what, when you have a year where you're a little off and everyone's not at their best, to kind of throw a monkey wrench into it and pick a new champion? Is that potentially a possibility?
It
was very close.
No, it was definitely very close. It's definitely a possibility, Dave, but I think, not being a judge, and I'm just going to put this out to you guys because you have more experience than I do. It's more than the quarter turns and the poses. I think there's also the judging when it's that close. It comes down to, let's say, their physique routines. It comes down to their presence on stage, how much they can last when they're really pushed doing those, the comparisons for a long period of time, the energy they bring on stage. All of that comes on top of the posing, on top of the comparisons.
Yeah, but if you have a panel of great judges, these are the Olympia judges, right? They've judged many, many, many shows. And as Milos and I were discussing, looking at the scorecards, Samson had first place votes, Hadi had first place votes, and Derek had first place votes, which means that all these judges were thinking different things, which means they weren't convinced that one person dominated that lineup. And based on what their personal likes were, do they like the big guy? Do they like the guy who's the most shredded? Do they like the guy with the crazy back and glutes? I mean, that was what dictated who won this show and placed second and third. So it was not unanimous. It was a split decision, as they say in boxing. And it was based on what each judge personally liked. No one was coerced into voting for the same person. Like, we know that was not the case because we saw the scores. So what's the psychology of picking the most judges, at least picking Derek as the winner? Obviously, he had something that no one else had in these judges' minds. And it could have been glutes and hamstrings from behind. It could have been the fact that he's a good-looking guy. It could have been the fact that the judges wanted to see change this year so that it would create controversy for next year. I have to believe that there's a psychological mechanism, and I can't get into these judges' heads, but maybe you can give us some insight into that.
I wouldn't lean on to do it in the best political interests of the Olympia. How can we create controversy? And that's why they chose who they chose. I'd have to believe it's a little bit more than that. I'd like to believe that because the judges, like you said, are professional. Why would they choose one over the other? Psychologically speaking, does he make to be a great ambassador? So would SAMSON, though, too. And it's from a mental standpoint, it would also see when you put a champion down, and I don't mean insult them, but when they're not in first, when they don't win, how do they respond to defeat?
We can go with that. That's a whole nother discussion we could talk about in a minute.
But I'm just saying, that could be part of the not knowing what that was going to happen. And I don't think that's, again, that's not, I don't think they were trying to push anyone to that. But we saw a lot of people, not even the open division, where they didn't place where they needed to for a whole bunch of reasons. Could be injury, like we saw what happened to Missy and what happened to, Whitney. There's so many things that happen, but from a mental standpoint, from the open division, I don't think it's just controversy for the sake of controversy. I think it's just, to your point, it's more of what they gravitated towards in preference and the majority won. I don't think it was necessarily a mental piece. I think it was just do they prefer that backside, that back shot that I think everyone can agree that, he won. Now, I felt bad for SAMSON because I don't know from the lighting was much better at night than it was and I saw it from pay-per-view. Obviously I wasn't at the show. I didn't see the detail on SAMSON. I felt bad. I couldn't see all his detail. Like he looked too, I don't know if it was like a tan issue.
He's very dark. So, if the lighting's not going to be good, he's going to look shadowed and you're not going to see the detail. My question to you, John, you or Milos can answer, is why do all 11 judges all have 3 different, choices for first place?
Well, listen, they're judging the physique show. And I'm going to say this, not brown-nosing and kissing ass of judges, because that I was many times very vocal about, disagreeing with the judges. They are watching the show and judging physiques. There's nothing representative. They knew that Big Ramy and Hadi is not going to be eloquent Miss Olympia promoters and go and represent the Olympia and a sport. They knew that. They judged the physique. So they were judging physiques on Friday and Saturday. And for them, the best physique won. Not the passport, not the good looking.
No, we know that. But why were there 3 different first place choices?
Because it's this close. So Dave and John, and even Lesley, I'm going to ask
because
you.
It was close. That was my point.
Here, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Leveroni, Chris Cormier, Dexter Jackson, and Sean Ray at their best, 5. Okay. Those are the 5 physiques. We all have our favorites, right? And it could go either way. So somebody's going to have to be first and somebody's going to have to be 5th. This is how close this was. This is why, I never care what fans are saying, I'm delusional, I'm this, I'm that. I know what I saw. SAMSON had a legitimate chance of winning, and 4 of the 9 judges, half of the panel saw him, okay, being there first or second. Okay, so that's how close it was. But I think, I'll tell you, once Derek Lansford turned around and that back double biceps pose, there was such a shocker that it really freeze the time, and the temperature dropped, and there was like slow motion, like a Spider-Man movie, you're watching it seems like he's doing this for 10 minutes. But he was doing everything right. When he spread the lats, he has a very good front relaxed pose. He looks very symmetrical, V-tapered, X-frame, right? You can't see the detail upstairs. So he's shape-wise, balance-wise, okay, he improved the legs, check the balance, check the shape, V-taper, yes, okay. Frontal biceps, same thing. You can't see the chest and abs and shoulders in a frontal biceps pose. Side chest that he did, his side leg, the glutes came in and the skin was very tight. So leg looked very, very good. Upstairs, he wasn't really Mr. Olympia, in a side chest pose, but that was just a brief moment. Then he turns around and shocks the world with back double biceps. That's the pose that I could stamp Mr. Olympia all over the place. Right. Back double biceps won him the title. Lat spread was good, very, very competitive, not absolutely slam dunk, because I think that Hadi could have taken that one. Then turning around, side triceps again, he pulled off that pose on glutes from the side and the tightness of the legs. Then he turned around, ab shot was not there. He played it with a vacuum, which I disagree with. So vacuum, he doesn't look bad because that's his frontal legs, that's his front lat spread, that's his frontal biceps, and now he's doing a vacuum in an ab shot. So there's 4 shots that he's not showing.
He doesn't have good abs. I mean, that's the answer.
Hiding his weakness.
Very good strategy. And then Most Muscular was not competitive. I mean, he wouldn't make a top 5 in Most Muscular if he would be judged by that pose. So, but I think he had enough of a check, balance, shape, V-taper, wow factor, So Hadi was beating him from the front. I mean, Hadi's conditioning was, crazy. Hadi to the side, he lost a little bit of that pop. He had a straight chest, but you could see next to SAMSON, size of SAMSON's round chest, all the, the shoulders and arms and everything. And hamstring and just leg from the side. So Hadi was not so convincing on the side, and definitely not from the back.
Do you think Hadi would have won this show if SAMSON wasn't in the lineup? To take away votes from him? I think SAMSON took away from Hadi.
I didn't think of that one. But listen, there was an argument for Hadi.
Like the three-way presidential race, who's going to take the most votes away from
there was an argument for all 3 to win. I think it became, okay, the need to determine at the finals, when you thought that SAMSON looked better, they actually put him all on the third, and it was just 2-man show. And I'm just very grateful, and I'm going to say this, that they didn't pull out just Hadi and Derek. They do this sometimes, okay? They can see them even if SAMSON is there. So give the guy another chance, another comparison. So I'm all for it. I think the judges did a phenomenal job. I don't say that I would have SAMSON winning. I just thought he had a chance. They preferred Derek. All the power to them, and congratulations, Derek.
I got to say this.
Yes.
One of the problems I see is that Hadi and Derek are in a vacuum, and in a vacuum you can take King Kamali's assessment and very easily define first and second, and it was very simple. Front double bicep is a tie. The front shots, front most muscular and front lat spread go to Hadi, and the 2 side shots and the 2 back shots go to Derek. 4-3, he wins. And but that's completely, totally discounting SAMSON, which I don't think anybody should have done, because I don't think he looked demonstratively worse condition-wise than 1 and 2. So,
well, he won a few shots, is what
exactly. Exactly. So the very fact that several judges had him first is indicative of you should not put Hadi and Derek.
Well, that takes it back to the psychology of who you picked to win the show. And I think because there wasn't a clear-cut winner, it left the door open, and that's why you got a lot of judges voting for the physiques that they liked, which weren't all the same, because we got 3 people who got first place votes. And
by the way, I'm not sure if SAMSON had a first place vote.
Well, we don't know, but they could have gotten dropped, though, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it could be. It could be that 4 judges took him second. So let's just make this.
He definitely had second. Let's put it this way: he definitely had second place votes, which would throw a monkey wrench into that final 2 call out. So
right.
What it's telling people is that this judging panel, which is such a talented group of individuals up there who usually always get it right, didn't know who to pick because it was that close. And because guys were not at their best. And when that happens, you usually get results that people are not all happy with because you can't. It was, in other words, if we see Ronnie Coleman or Dorian up there and they just slam dunk this lineup, everyone's in agreement. No one's arguing.
Right,
this guy should have won. That guy should have won. This guy. We're all in agreement. He blew everyone away. He won. You know, and there's been many, many years where that's been the case, where there was nothing to discuss. That was it. The champion, showed up. He slam dunked everyone, and that was the end of it. But this year it's open, which makes it more interesting, which is going to make it even more interesting for next year because Nick Walker will be back. A lot of guys that were maybe a little off will be back. We'll probably have some new blood in there that we don't even know about yet who might be in that top group. And that's what makes bodybuilding interesting. So, hopefully the small little constructive criticisms we put out there can be fixed for next year. It's going back to Vegas. It's going to be the Planet Hollywood hotel again. Okay.
I don't think so. Actually, I heard there was.
I think
it's going to be the new hotel, the Planet Hollywood Theater. I think, right?
It's that new place that they just finished. I thought.
Right, but I think the theater is the same theater, right? They were using.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll find out.
But there's a new hotel that I know that there is the host hotel, which will be great.
Dave, I think you agreed with me. I mentioned on Friday. Hadi could have been 4 times champion by now.
Oh, yeah. 2 years ago is when he should have won, and you nailed that.
Yeah. I mean, he could have won 2019.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
There was. So it's really so for all the Iranian fans, they're looking like, oh yeah, he had to win. Listen, it's that close.
Yeah.
Even if I was a judge, I mean, I would hate to judge. I can't possibly judge when I'm going to be biased with my client, right?
But if Hadi was 3 inches taller, he would have been Mr. Olympia 4 times already. You're right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But the judging has got to be exponentially more difficult when you're shuffling around guys based on who's got the least wrong with them. And that's really what this judging was about. Who's got the least amount wrong?
Who has the least?
Well, obviously, Derek had the least according to the judges, but that's not according to me.
I think Derek put this thing away from behind. And I know
you have always said.
I know it's short-sighted to try to just say, "Hey, he won the bet," because Hadi won the front pose. But let me tell you something. We've said, John, and you're quoting me. Shows a lot of times are defined by the back, and when he turned around, he was slam dunk the best. And it just, even if you don't think that he won every pose from behind, your eyes just went to this guy. He was conditioned from behind.
I said it in the article I just wrote for Muscle and Fitness. Yeah. He will own the back double bicep shot for probably the next foreseeable future. There is nobody that's going to beat that shot.
Nick Walker believes he can.
Well, Nick Walker could smoke in every other shot.
Is this small?
I don't think anybody's ever. It's going to take a lot to beat that back double bicep. It's just, and you know what? You mentioned it before, Milos. It is, all this criticism is not meant to disparage anybody, and I think not enough can possibly be said about Derek making history as being the first guy to compete to win the 212 and the Open. That is so massive.
Oh my God! Yeah.
As far and not enough, and unfortunately, not enough is being made about that because of all the other shit that is ladled on top of this thing.
Let's throw it out there. I want to throw this to Lesley for a second. Derek, all the fans of Hadi went online and somehow got Derek's Instagram shut down. That night of the show or the night right after the show. I mean, twice I think they shut it down, if I'm not mistaken. And what does that do for a guy who, Lesley, psychologically? I mean, the guy just won the Olympia, for God's sakes. You'd think everything would be going great. He'd be in a good mood. Let's go party. And he's got to deal with these fans who are just psychotic, like, we're going to shut your Facebook down. You didn't deserve. I mean, never in the history of bodybuilding did we ever have to deal with another like a third entity, a third judging panel, the internet, the social media group. It's like you got to deal with like a mob scene, How
And
does
death
a
threats.
champion handle that? How do you? What's your advice to Derek?
Well, the thing is, Derek has, a really strong belief in God, which is great. That will help a lot. He has a great support system. He's got his wife. He's got Hani. He's got friends. That's really important to keep him grounded. I mean, he made a post afterwards. I mean, he's really well spoken. He's a humble guy, and is putting things into perspective. If anything, now I don't know if anything new has been released from Hadi, but there was something that was translated where he said he felt a lot of shame about what happened, about his behavior and stuff. But so I want to talk about the psychology for.
I don't think he said he had shame about his behavior. I think he felt like he let his country down. I think that was the translation I heard.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen him apologize. Has there been a video where he's apologized to Derek? I don't think so.
I haven't seen it if there was.
No.
There was an Instagram post on Derek's page that he chimed in and say, "Love you, brother," all that stuff. And,
Yeah, and he doesn't speak English, but somehow the post was good.
that
I
wasn't
don't
him.
believe he wrote that.
I communicate with Hadi on English on Instagram. He either uses a Google Translator or
Right,
has
right.
we exchange a lot. Yeah.
I think that Hadi definitely felt remorse for what he did, and I'm sure. Look, it was the heat of the moment. It doesn't excuse it. Running off stage, taking your medal up, bad sportsmanship.
Yeah.
However,
but Dave, I don't know if you've seen it. When he was announced second, he hugged Derek, congratulated him, accepted his medal. He got in the lineup. He took the initial pictures.
right.
But, okay, now they're taking some time. He just doesn't want to be there. That's normal.
Right.
You just want to.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do it. It's a
Yeah,
champion.
I guess.
Olympia.
And I'm going to tell you this. I don't agree necessarily with you have to knock out the champ to beat him. No, beat him by points. I mean, in every other sport, you can, you don't need to knock out the champ.
Right.
So I think that Derek squeezed in just enough points to beat Hadi and SAMSON for that matter. And Lesley is saying about psychology. I think that Derek is so level-headed, such a strong person. I mean, I was making jokes, and he accepts my jokes. Right. I sent him a picture of him riding the horse, and he laughs about it. Right? And he has humility. Right? So listen, there's only one popular choice, and and in Iran, that's not him. From my angle, I wish SAMSON won, but he deserved this victory. And made a history. Just think about it. How many shows total did he do? He won the Nationals, went straight to win the Tampa, straight into the Olympia, like in a matter of weeks, his first year, placing second to 7-time champion Flex Lewis, okay? And then winning pretty much everything. He almost won last 3 Olympias, 2012 Olympia, 2021, and then placed close second 2022, and now he won. So he's that good, and he's making plans to improve. I'm just going to say my observation. If he tries to put more muscle mass, he's going to start affecting his balance and symmetry and shape, which, if you could really have a watchful eye and watch him off the stage, backstage, and walking on the stage, you can see that if he doesn't spread those lats and sucks in the stomach, you can see the waist is not that small. So like Phil Heath lost to Sean Roden. John, you were saying 4 poses to 3 Hadi against Derek. Phil Heath won majority of the poses from Sean Roden. He lost in between poses, losing the stomach, staying in the lineup. And that's where he can be noticed if you really watch, and judges are watching. Now, when I complained to Tyler about, listen, I sent him like so many pictures. Hadi
Tyler must put his head.
He sees Milos' name on the caller ID. And goes, oh.
Everybody gets diarrhea when they see my name, But listen, he says, they were moving forward. Steve brings them back. As soon as they bring back, they keep moving forward, and they end up at the edge of the stage. Then 6 feet back, in the second comparison, they end up. Okay, but one thing that Tyler said, Milos, we see the true size. maybe on the pictures,
Right.
the guys that gain
knows what's going on.
a few inches, maybe they can look bigger. But for judges, it doesn't work. They know very well. They can assess the true size.
Yeah, it's just. But Steve was yelling at them and telling them to get back in line because it looks bad for the audience. I will say this though, John. If Milos was smart, like George Farah was, see, George Farah has been sending Tyler birthday gifts since he's been born. So he's allowed to text Tyler whenever he wants. Okay. Milos hasn't been doing that. George is.
Do you know what Tyler likes?
20 years already.
But Dave, on that note, I'm going to tell you, and all those judges can confirm. Back in the 90s, I have never went to a single judge and asked what I need to improve. I felt inappropriate. I never ever in my life did that.
Right.
One time, 97, after the Night of the Champions, Steve Weinberger came to me and said it was very close between you and Chris. He beats you from the back, you know, from stuff. And he just gave me his opinion. I didn't even ask.
Right.
I never asked for any of my athletes throughout the years, and I realized it's a mistake because I could be guided what they need to improve on and what not.
Look, if you're a good coach, you know what needs to be fixed and what doesn't. I mean,
from my standpoint.
The problem with that is, and this has happened to me a lot with clients, is that the judges, they say the same fucking thing. Yeah, you're just bigger and harder. You just come in drier, more conditioned. You know, they're not saying, well, you know, your side chest, your clavicles, you know, should be level, and you need to flex the outside pec and not the inside pec. Or so that's a constructive criticism. But for the most part, you get, well, you better condition next.
John, I heard it. They are so particular, you know, exactly which pose, which body part. Tyler spends the times with everybody. I was shocked. I in the great detail. Everything. Sonny Rinaldi.
I think he enjoys doing it. Yeah, he's got.
They're not just bigger, harder, more. No. I'm serious. That's why I'm so fired up, because they notice, they see every little detail. Fix this, fix that. You don't need that. You don't need that. And that's
but most of the time, I'm sure you know exactly when they tell you, like, I kind of know that already.
Yeah, of course. You know.
Have you ever gotten feedback from a judge that you weren't aware of?
Because listen, of course, if they would talk to me, they would say, "Why did you leave your arms in Serbia before you came to America?" You know.
Look, that judging panel for the Olympia is Steve Weinberg is so good. He could. The truth is, he probably could have judged that show in 5 minutes if he really wanted to.
In 17 seconds.
Yeah, but there's a dramatic aspect of it. It's for the fans. You got to make them do a lot of poses. But these guys know what they're looking at, and you know what? They knew that it was very close, and that's why it went into in the finals. They worked their asses off on Saturday night because they knew it was not a foregone conclusion. Personally, I think everyone improved about equally from Friday to Saturday. So I don't think anyone dramatically was better and anyone was worse necessarily. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but you know that they had 5 comparisons in the prejudging. The top 6 first time, and then they were mixed up, and then top 3 3 times. Right. So 5 times prejudging, 5 times at the finals. Yeah. 10 comparisons. If they didn't see in 10 comparison, you know, then they saw what they needed to see.
But isn't it, John, kind of coincidental that everyone got better everyone was off on Friday night and then everyone got better on Saturday, which has to tell you that there was something going on environmentally that was affecting how these guys.
11 o'clock, 7 o'clock. There's 4-hour difference. 11 o'clock Friday, 7 o'clock Saturday, right?
Of course.
First of all, Weinberger deserves a box of chicken from Carlo for getting all his judging down. Seriously though, but you know that whole mass movement from bad to better is indicative of, like you said, some kind of environmental thing that is endemic. And I thought, as you do, that it's the timing. You know, they were up there so late at night, and when they're normally sleeping, that it just threw everything off. So that's why I think there was such a vast improvement. But
and the reason we
before
keep reiterating this is because it's been 2 years in a row now. So I just want to see it go on a little earlier. That's it. Maybe start the Friday night finals earlier. I don't know.
Why can't they just go back to the way it was? Prejudging in the morning, finals at night.
Because they sell more tickets that way, and I understand that, but that doesn't mean you have to put the men on last. That's all I'm saying.
But what we saw on Lesley here, I want
to. Prejudging was at 12 noon in every show in the 90s.
Right.
12 noon on the dot.
Yeah.
On the dot, you on the stage.
And Arnold was like that too for years and years and years.
Yep. So here's a philosophical, psychological question I want to ask. A little off topic.
Okay.
The reaction.
Is that still hold on? Is that your smoke detector still going off?
No,
yeah.
John, if you smashed that with a sledgehammer,
listen, that's since Olympia. Since Sunday, I'm listening.
Oh my God, it's driving me crazy. It's only been an hour.
Oh, drive me nuts. So the reaction among the Iranian community to what went on with Derek and Hadi at the end, when Hadi walked off stage, it seemed to ignite a cluster bomb for his Iranian followers that opened the floodgates for the worst deluge of vitriol and hatred that I have ever seen in bodybuilding, ever in the 50 years that I've been involved with it. So my question is this: in recognition of what was going on for him, basically, Hadi should have at some point stood up, gotten online, made some kind of message and said, "Hey, God, fans of mine who are reacting this way, tone it down. This is ridiculous. Derek and I are teammates. We're on, he won. He's the champion. Give him his due." And instead, he did nothing, and that allowed this crazed movement to gain momentum to the shameful degree that Derek's Instagram got taken down 2 times by that amount of trash being thrown at him.
And there was a lot of threats. There was a lot of threats hurled at his family too.
Yes, exactly. So and once that happened, the onus should have been on Hadi to make a public statement to tone that shit down, and he never did it. So
I did it. I'll tell you this. I did the live Instagram with the Iranian guy on Monday morning. Yeah. And I talk about this and I talk to him, listen, I know that I'm a biased coach. You guys are a biased nation,
right.
So it is normal. You think he deserved the victory and then you're going to say all these things, but they're teammates, they're training partners, they're friends.
Yeah.
And graciously that Derek got the defeat last year. This is how I think, I really think Hadi graciously accepted. He didn't complain or anything. He just didn't want to be there. This is it. That's the bottom line. I mean, if you're in a fight and you're knocked out, okay.
Milos, don't be so naive. He was pissed off. He was very mad.
Hold on. But he didn't grimace it to the judges that he didn't agree, like Flex Wheeler says, no, I'm number one and all that stuff. Okay, come on, let's compare it. I think that he did very, very good job. He just didn't want to be there. But Iranian guys are just so passionate, and they saw him winning. They think that he deserved, so they think, now let's complain. So I told them, it's not political. Oh, yeah, American. 2 times Egyptian champion, 1 time last year could have happened if they really wanted to push American. And then
I didn't see Ramy do that when he dropped from 1st to 5th place.
Exactly. He was very gracious in the fit. Yes. And I told my Iranian friends, last year for Olympia and Romania show, there was very popular American, very good for the Olympia, Brad Wilkin, in a crazy condition.
Yep.
It was if you're going to do political anything, that would be the time. And Bekrus Tabani, my athlete from Iran, beat him. That slams the door to any of these political talks. Please. Okay.
Well, yes and no. Here's the problem. this is the underlying problem. The underlying problem is that everybody's split into two groups: the oppressed and the oppressors. So, if you look at last year, Derek wins the Olympia. I mean, Derek lost the Olympia to Hadi. He was very gracious, right? He congratulated him. He didn't make any noise or whatever. He acted like a true sportsman and not not the oppressor because of Hadi is being the oppressed, because the oppressed is always the poor, the brown, the non-white, those are the oppressed. Okay. So now when you have the oppressed not winning in favor of what symbolically is the oppressor, the oppressed can do no wrong. No one will call them out. They can do whatever they want: loot, rob, steal, rape, pillage. Nobody says a word because they're oppressed. Now, if it's when you turn the tables and it's the oppressor is the loser, well, they're expected to take that in stride, and anything other than that would be poor form. But as soon as the oppressed guy loses and takes it as oppression, he gets followed by all his fellow oppressed people, and they make this big movement, and now you have this whole gigantic mess that nobody is going to do anything about.
Right.
Nothing.
Because they're afraid to touch it. You make a good point. When Hadi won last year, how come all us American guys were so happy for him?
Exactly.
I was super happy. I said, wow, this guy deserved it. He got a great victory. Congratulations. No one was like, oh, that guy shouldn't have won because he's from Iran. No one said that,
No. And if anybody wanted to, they would have been perfectly within their right to do it.
Listen, there's no fan of bodybuilding and us bodybuilders that we don't love and respect Hadi Choopan.
Yeah.
Choopan. I want to say, we're still getting back to Hadi Choopan. It's Hadi Choopan. Okay. Choopan. Yeah. So ever since he stormed on the IBB Pro stage, in Dubai for this Sharu Classic and all the other shows, we have nothing but respect and love for him. Because he could have won every show that he ever entered, and it would be, listen, he lost to Flex Lewis in Korea. It's highly questionable,
controversial.
Yeah, he lost first Olympia. I could see him winning. Even though I'm talking #bodybuilding. Yes, Brandon Curry has all these other attributes that maybe he didn't, but he was so conditioned and so balanced that, okay. At that time, his back was harder and leaner.
He was leaner. He was absolutely leaner. Yeah,
there was no, and I don't know why is that. Maybe.
But this doesn't exist in a vacuum. From day one, we've had controversies over who should have won. Chris Cormier should have won an Olympia. Kevin Levrone should have won an Olympia. Flex Wheeler should have won an Olympia. Nasser should have won an Olympia. I mean, these guys should have won the Olympia. They didn't, right? Yeah. They didn't win. So,
should they have won the Olympia, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it okay if I speak for a couple of minutes? I had some thoughts.
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
please.
So there's two pieces. I mean, there's Hadi and Hadi's fans. Hadi put a lot of his identity into winning, and that is a big mistake for a lot of athletes to make. So if anything, if this could be a learning lesson from him on how to you train to win, but you don't expect to win. And that's a mental game thing that a lot of athletes have to go through. So he does need to work with a coach to help him prep moving forward, especially at the pro level. So I understand why. And you're right, Milos, he did the right thing. He congratulated Derek. He was very gracious. But for him not to stay longer, especially when Steve called him to go back in line, that's poor sportsmanship. But I understand his feelings. But still, at the pro level, you have to demonstrate professionality. Deal with whatever you have to backstage, but on stage, you have to present a certain level of professionalism. And then after the fact, like John was saying, Hadi could have still said something to his fans to say, look, even if they weren't teammates, they were teammates, but even if they weren't teammates, to say, hey guys, I'm a warrior. And this is part of being a warrior, is we have something called, ethics, but we also have loyalty, not necessarily to the country, but to the sport. And, it's you're, and if anything else, A true warrior fights with honor. Threatening my competition is not in honor. You disgrace me. If I'm Hadi, my fans, you disgrace me by insulting, by not celebrating my fellow athlete. That is something he could have said for sure. Now the fans, I think, the eruption.
The problem is he believed them. He believed them initially, maybe not now.
Initially, but I mean, now there's still time for him to do some.
He should make a statement. He should definitely.
Should. But regarding the fans, it's probably, you know, also the, let's face it, the climate I mean, that's not great either. But let's look at the Brazilian fans. They're I don't have to tell you guys how passionate the Brazilian fans are too. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they threatened Chris. You know, when you compare Ramon and Chris, now Chris deservedly won, but I'm saying I don't think Ramon's fans, even though they're really passionate about the sport and want to support Ramon, they didn't do death threats to Chris.
No. Look, there's a lot of Iranian people, and we might as well call it out, who just don't like people from the United States. I mean, I'm not talking about the bodybuilders. I think bodybuilders is kind of, we have this like iron brotherhood where we're all kind of like linked, but there are a lot of people who don't like Americans who live in Iran. It is what it is.
I wouldn't go there.
You know, I'm just saying it is what it is. So the fans that are doing this to Derek are not the bodybuilding. They're not bodybuilders. There's no bodybuilder in their right mind is going to do that to Derek, because the bodybuilders love Derek probably because they respect him for what he's achieved physique-wise. It's the jerk-offs that are the trolls that are in the chat room on YouTube that don't even work out. They sit in their basement. You know, they're big warriors behind the keyboard. Those are the people who are doing stuff like that. No real bodybuilder is going to take time out of their day to contact Instagram to shut down Derek Lunsford's Instagram. As a matter of fact, if Derek was there in their gym, they'd probably be asking for autographs and wanting to train with him. So I don't believe it's the bodybuilders. It's the trolls, okay, who just kind of like are you know, as John would say, nutsack huggers, right? That are just hanging on, watching, you know, trying to, you know, be a part of the mob that are doing this. It's not the real bodybuilders. The real bodybuilders respect everything that these top elite bodybuilders do because they know how hard it is to get to the top elite Olympia level. And that's the truth. So it's not the bodybuilders that did this to Derek. And it's not the bodybuilders, but it is the mob scene that follows the sport, you know.
But the thing is that the vitriol that John was referring to, even if these are from the keyboard warriors, that's where Hadi can still make a statement and say,
yeah, and they still won't. They probably won't even listen.
It doesn't matter if the statement is effective. What matters is
he makes the statement.
He makes the statement. Exactly.
Right. The problem is in Iran, bodybuilding is like football here. I mean, it's a big sport, so you're going to get a lot of these beer drinking, you know, people who don't even work out, who are just fans of bodybuilding because in Iran, that's a big sport, but soccer and bodybuilding, you know, think about the football fans here or the hockey fans. You ever see these hockey fans, how crazy they are? If they don't like a decision, they can go crazy, you know. That's the people who are attacking Derek. It's not the bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So
but it's the point of making Hadi saying, look, you know, it's not a matter of necessarily them changing.
Right.
Because it probably won't change. It's the idea of he's being professional. He's sticking up. Right. He's saying, look, guys, don't disgrace me, whether they do or not, it's up to them. But it's just being that professional image and handling it in a professional way.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you, Lesley, but you have to look from the other aspect. Winner's mentality. I didn't have it. And I have to say it. You know, I was going against Flex and Sean and Kevin and Chris and Paul and Lee and Nasser and Dorian, right? So I was not going to the Olympia like, oh, I can win and fool myself. But these guys, when they have like Nick Walker's winner's mentality, he's zero in, he doesn't see anything else. So it's Hadi. And he represents the country. They made 2 statues, I don't know, in 2 different cities. I don't know if you've seen it. You know, he's celebrated and he's there going to the war as a warrior, ready to fight, to win. And for him, nothing else was acceptable. Now, when he was not called, okay, he graciously accepted and then walked off. I don't know. We don't know if he did say publicly something, you know, there. I think he's a good guy. And I think that we are a little bit making a big deal out of it. Iranians are just passionate. they lost, they complain. I mean, come on, this is kind of expectable. I don't like threats, and whoever is threatening, as you say, they are not bodybuilding fans. They're other type of fans. But winner's mentality. You said like he should have. He was 0 in, 2 in. He believed that he was in better condition and shape and bigger than last year. He somewhat improved his back, right? So he was waiting for and still champion, and he didn't hear it. So he was partially in shock, and then he just wanted to walk away. I don't know how you would say, how did he supposed to really accept this? I mean, I understand what you were saying. He is a warrior, but
Milos, you bite your tongue, you take the pictures,
you
go off stage, and then if you want to go back to your hotel room and smash things and cry, you do that then. That's fine, and that's expected. Like you said, who the hell wants to lose the Olympia title? I don't blame him, but you don't do it in front of an audience.
But he did bite the tongue. How many times do you have to bite it? He took a picture. Everything.
He could have lasted another 30 seconds. That's all he had to make it. Milos.
Yeah,
but Milos, the other thing really is that it's a missed opportunity for bodybuilding, because what should have happened is that everybody watching should have been absolutely awestruck by the fact that they watched history being made by watching the first guy who ever crossed over from 212 to the Open and won both titles.
Right.
That should have been the story of the night. Instead, it's buried. It's not even being paid attention to.
Yeah.
But because we are making big deal out of it. I mean, it's repeated and played 100 times. It should not. If we didn't make a big deal out of it, nobody would even mention it. Okay. It's a moment he walked away. He apologized for who? For his country, that he let them down. That's his apology. So that's his state of mind. He didn't, bring himself down. He bring the whole.
But that's not a winner's mentality then. That's the thing, what I'm saying, Milos. I'm not
Everyone's a good winner. No one's it's how you lose.
It's definitely how you lose.
Yeah, anyway.
There is a caveat to that, though. You can't be too good a loser. My father always
agreed.
My father always used to say, "Show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser."
No, but John, everyone in bodybuilding who's ever competed in the history of the sport has gotten, quote, screwed or a bad placing or something they didn't agree with. And you know what? We all have had to suck it up. Believe me, I've had to suck a lot of,
you more than anybody on here. Yes.
Yeah, I would never show, I would never be disrespectful to the judges or to the guys who won the show, because it's not their fault that they beat me, So you suck it up, and you can go back and cry in the hotel room after. Believe me, I've had plenty of those.
You guys are looking at the biggest loser in IBB. I lost 71.
Well, you did the most shows.
1 out of 72 shows.
You did the most shows. That's why you lost the most.
Yeah, that's the most.
It's like Babe Ruth has the most strikeouts,
Milos, I might come across as being hard on Hadi, and I have a lot of respect for Hadi. I thought he should have won at least 3 times already by now anyway. So it's not me, hating Hadi bashing, because I have so much respect for him. My point in bringing this up is that it's also the Mr. Olympia. Like, we're talking about the pinnacle of the sport. It's also a reflection of the whole sport, and it's just saying the pinnacle of our sport, this is how they're responding. So we have a responsibility. It's a representation of the IFBB. It's a representation of the Olympia brand. Do I want him punished? No. Do I think, I don't think anything else has to be said. I think he feels bad enough as it is, but they have to be very careful that a precedent isn't set, that this continues to happen. And I'm not talking about from Hadi, but from anybody. So there has to be some care that's dealt with on this. But no, do I want Hadi to be punished? No, I don't. But I do think he should have I think someone should speak to Hadi and say it would be important for him to make a statement to his fans.
Well, if you learn Farsi, you can be his sports psychologist, Lesley. There you go. I know you're looking for a job. I don't know if you want to move to Iran or anything like that, but
maybe not at the moment, Dave. But yeah.
All right, we got to wrap this up. Milos, thank you so much for all your insights. You're very candid. I know you're very honest, and I think people really appreciate that, and it was fun watching you argue with Samir at the Olympia in the wrap up. People really like that a lot.
Yeah.
Let's make
Mr. Onion skin contest.
Yeah. Milos had some of the classic lines of the Olympia weekend for sure in that wrap up right there.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Lesley, thanks for your insight. And of course, John, good to have you back on the show again. And we'll be doing these rips and rant shows again on a regular basis. The Olympia was just a crazy week. So,
yeah.
Hey, next time you bring Samir to the show, I'll buy like those 2 onions, like white and white.
Milos, I thought if they weren't friends, I thought Milos and Samir were going to go at it like MMA.
No. They've known each other way too long.
It was very fun, and I know the fans really appreciate it as well. For now, though, we're out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo with Milos Sarcev, John Romano, and Lesley Timbol. We'll see you next time.